Inputs in fighting games is how the player expresses their thoughts in a match. If I see you like to block, I'm gonna grab or try to mix you up. If I see you in the air, I'm gonna try to do an anti-air. If I want to do anything in a fighting game, I have to do some kind of input. So I understand when the way of doing inputs gets changed, it can bring up a lot of conversation. Granblue Rising with simple inputs, Street Fighter 6 having a modern control scheme, and Project L having no motion inputs, developers are starting to challenge the way we play. Usually when a game has traditional inputs and simple inputs, the simple inputs have some kind of disadvantage. These disadvantages are usually less damage and you lose access to some normal moves, effectively cutting your move list down. Street Fighter 6 is the newest example, but this existed before in different games such as BlazBlue and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. In Granblue Fantasy Versus, your moves will go on a cooldown if you do them with a simple input, but traditional inputs have no cooldowns. In the upcoming sequel, Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising, they removed any negative penalty for simple inputs, giving the player two different ways to reach the same exact move with no differences. I honestly believe this is a good thing for everyone who wants to play. I'm not saying that we should take away all negative penalties for simple inputs across fighting games, but in Granblue Rising it works. Generally, when you want to do the Dragon Punch special move, classic or simple input, you must press forward first. Pressing forward means you cannot hold back to block and you're committed to this move, and if you mess up, you will get hit. If simple inputs let you Dragon Punch while holding back to block, that'd be a little bit unbalanced, seeing as if you changed your mind, you never put yourself in danger by pressing forward. Now with supers, this is where Granblue Rising differs from Street Fighter 6. In Granblue Rising, to do a super with simple inputs, you have to do a quarter circle input and press the special move button. The classic way of doing a super in this game is doing a double quarter circle and a button. No pretzels, no half circles, no forward half circles, and no full circles. Quarter circles are the only motion required to do supers. So choosing to do a super in simple input isn't too far off from doing a super in classic. In Street Fighter 6, to do a super in modern controls, you press one direction, heavy, and the special button, like down plus heavy plus special. The classic way to do supers in this game are double quarter circles, full circles, and charge inputs. This is where I can see why there's a damage nerf on modern controls. Zangief's level 3 super requires 2 full circles. I hate doing that motion, so whenever I see that in the move list, I return to the character select screen. But on modern controls, I'm able to do that same super in a way that I'm less likely to mess up and get punished for. If the 2-button command grab super did the same damage as the 720 command grab super, that would make a lot of people start talking. You are able to do the 720 motion on modern controls. Doing the super that way will take away the damage nerf and give you the classic input damage, and that's a nice way of rewarding the player for trying out the classic inputs. But if you are intimidated by motion inputs, you can avoid them forever really. Like I mentioned earlier, all you need is one direction and 2 buttons and you can still rip supers back to back. Granblue Rising locking that super behind a single quarter circle and the special button, adding that layer of challenge to someone who wants to improve by adding supers to their game plan, teaches them that important first motion input, the fireball. After a while playing Granblue, doing the fireball motion will start becoming second nature to them. So when the player picks up another game like Guilty Gear Strive, another popular fighting game that attracts a lot of newcomers, even though there isn't simple inputs for specials and supers, being able to do the quarter circle will give them that confidence to maybe try out the DP motion and learn. I'm not saying one simple input is better than the other. To do a charge special on modern controls in Street Fighter 6, you do have to hold back or down to get the charge like the classic way. You just don't have to press forward and the button at the same time. I don't know if Granblue Rising did that, but I know charge specials in Granblue Fantasy Versus are one direction with no charge and a button. Of course, when it comes to the pro scene, inputs are almost always guaranteed with that high level of gameplay, no matter which input style. But simple inputs and high level gameplay is a whole different topic than what I'm talking about here. I appreciate fighting game developers for finding new ways to take the scariest and hardest part of controlling your character a little bit less intimidating. With so many different forms of media, hobbies, and even work trying to take up time in your day, being able to play the game without having to learn tricks to do the basic function in the game you bought is a great way to grow the casual audience. And within that casual audience, something will click, many will get curious, and that's when their fighting game journey begins.